Hello, I'm Joseph Bugord, an illustrator. What I'm about to do is to narrate and describe the backstories for each illustration in the sketchbooks as part of my final main project at uni, which included the visual narrative reportage diary. Sketchbook 1 from the main project. Sketchbook 5. The first one shown was an illustration taken at a local garden centre. This was in Congsbury, Somerset, and it is of a green Yemen chameleon. I thought he was so wacky and inspiring to capture. First started off in pencil, as I do with nearly all my works, which was then detailed in fine liner biro with a wash of a mixture of watercolour, paints and soluble pencils, and slightly going over later also with cross-hatting lines, marks and tones. The second one, the above visual was of children queuing, waiting to get onto the ice rink, and below was the really fast, quick, delightful movement and capture of characters shown. I gave it a simple wash, tonal of a light grey bluey colour, inspired by probably, I call him the icon hero of mine, Sir Quentin Blake, who often will feature and do this a lot in his works and renderings at the end. These are different varieties, types of bunnies, again drawn, captured and simple, given a line and wash mode. This was displayed at Puxton Park Farm near Weston-super-Mare. This was on a day trip out we took with my sister, brother, and my two delightful cheeky characters, the twin nephews Harry and Charlie, who had so much fun out that morning on what was a pretty wet, miserable day. The second one was quite very energetic, very almost formed to still life, maybe interpreting later into an animation. The activity and observations of the meerkats, and taken at Meerkat Manor at Puxton Park near Weston-super-Mare, they give a very cheeky charm, as they are very witty and a lot of fun. And obviously, yes, drawing again inspiration obviously from those fantastic Alexander Orloff themeerkat.com adverts, which is hilarious, but nice to see them in detail, in the flesh, and a real portrayal of the animal itself. The last, probably most recent of the illustrations I've done up to date was this one of a very wise snowy owl in its enclosure, giving a very haunting portrayal, obviously the very simple backgrounds of the weed and the plant life, and being clutched onto the wooden pole it's standing on. It's from Sketchbook 2. So I'm now looking at Sketchbook 4, and I had a good morning to afternoon in Bristol. These were nocturnal observations by the harbour side. Obviously, as you know, I'm a local boy, and I love going back and visiting Bristol when I can. And there's lots of energy in these visuals of the harbour side, autumn leaves, the weather, Clifton Suspension Bridge, and these fantastic painted houses up by Clifton Way, and obviously with a fountain, obviously by the College Green by the Bristol University. It was absolutely wonderful to go back and revisit a city very close to my heart and visual. Certainly, yes, it wasn't the best sketches that I've done to date, but I was just so mesmerised and caught under the spell of this fantastically talented female musician playing the harp. I mean, I've never heard so much wonderful music in all my life. Again, it was so tranquil and powerful, and taken in the Bristol city centre that Saturday afternoon. And it was wonderful to have a brief conversation with her, saying how talented she was and paying the compliments back. It was wonderful. I just wish I would have found out more about her during that time, but certainly a very powerful piece, and this will certainly be featured a lot in the various forms of my final major show this year. This visual was of my sisters and my own attempts at pumpkin carving that Halloween evening. As you can see, both the different versions, I'll let you guys decide which one I ended up doing. But they came out very powerfully, and I certainly love the way that the deep background colour has really stood out against the foreground elements of the pumpkin carvings. This was a Saturday observation study of the housing and views of barns and stables where I live in Elmtree Farm, in a little place called Nelsey in North Somerset. And it's certainly definitely a working sequential atmosphere of the autumn countryside and the birds, and it was, and certainly all the linear, the tones and the marks created, it's come out as a very detailed but extremely simple in the way elements have been shown and viewed in sight with the image. Following on is a study of my Uncle Simon's horse, Greta, which he keeps in our fields because we have quite a lot of land at home. And as you can see, she's just very happily there, enjoyment and the fun of grazing on the fresh, wet, green grass that afternoon in situ. When it comes to deciding on what to illustrate and what to draw and sketch, sometimes visuals don't come straight away. Other times you have to decide on, actually, to practice that stuff. And I decided on one evening to do a still life, and this was 3 different pairs of my various shoes. And it was definitely a brilliant way to practice showing a simple object in a variety of the forms, displays, compositions and scale, etc.